Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Beef Up Front podcast. This is your host, Ryan Coyle. We are back after about like a 2-week break. We haven't had a show, so we're back with a big show tonight. We're gonna be talking some fantasy football and some news about the show going forward. I'm joined by Brendan O'Donnell tonight. How are we, Brendan?
How are you, Ryan? How is everyone? Going to talk about fantasy league tonight. Going to talk some sleepers, some advice, and hopefully make a couple of you guys laugh.
So before we get into the fantasy, though, today some big sports news came out where Patrick Mahomes signed a 10-year, $503 million contract, $477 million guaranteed. So kind of just wanted to get your thoughts on that signing and what it means for the quarterback market going forward, I guess.
So obviously, this isn't a contract we've ever seen in football. That type 10 years, that type of money is usually just done in baseball. Like I don't know exactly what Mike Trout's contract was, but I know it was closer to that. But I honestly think that it's worth every penny.
Yeah, I mean, a guy like that is you gotta.
Yeah.
If the Chiefs weren't giving him that contract, someone else.
Yeah, you kind of have to, and I know it sounds kind of ridiculous, but he's the guy.
I'm intrigued though to see going forward, like how they can keep that together, like because Kelsey will be due probably soon. Tyreek. We'll see what happens to Sammy Watkins. I mean, they just drafted Hilaire, so that he'll be on a cheap deal. But, I mean, going forward, keeping the rest of the roster. I mean, that's the one thing with Brady. Brady always could have had a big deal, but they would always find ways to make sure his cap hit wasn't as big in order to keep the guys around him.
Yeah, and I know, like, for example, with the Seahawks, they won and they were great when Russell Wilson didn't get that huge contract because they could just build the defense and everything. And I know, like, even with the Eagles before, they were really good before Wentz got the big contract. So sometimes it doesn't – the teams don't have as much success when the quarterback gets a big contract. So we'll see. But you have to pay him. He's the face of the league, and he already got them a Super Bowl. So
yeah. Another thing is with it, like, with a guy getting a contract like that big, like, you could, like, hear in, like, the locker room and stuff, some people, like, questioning it and whatnot. But I think, like, with the Chiefs, like, and throughout the whole NFL, like, everyone thinks, like, he was deserving of that money. Like, no one's really going to be complaining about that. And, like, I just have never really heard a bad thing about Mahomes, and it seems like he's universally loved. And it seems like the Chiefs, all his teammates, whatnot, are happy that he got that big payday.
Yeah, I agree with everything you just said. He's the guy, so we'll see.
Did you know that McNabb actually got a 12-year deal back in 2002? I saw that today. Yeah.
12?
Yeah, 12-year deal.
Do you know how much?
I don't know how much it was, but it was like that was the longest contract like in NFL history. Like.
Yeah, I feel like in football you usually don't see it past like six years. So.
Yeah. But
I think him and Andy are gonna get a couple more together.
Oh yeah, I fully expect this to be the next run of success throughout the league.
Yeah.
But all right, we'll move on to our big news. This year the Beef Up Front podcast, Beef Up Front family will be partnering with the Stella League, which is a fantasy league from Upper Moreland High School, I guess alumni now. It's a 16-team league, and Brendan is an honorary member of the league. So we're going to try and, like, throughout the year, maybe do some shows or write some previews of, like, some matchups and try to add a little more comedy, I guess, to it.
Yeah.
Because it's, like, all fun and games, like, with friends and stuff, but it gets, like, competitive, too. So Brendan's going to kind of run us through the league, the managers, and kind of maybe some stuff to look out for prior to the draft this year.
All right, thanks, Ryan. So our league, we've been doing it for years. We keep the player drops. We add another one. It's been pretty consistent. We're super competitive with it. There's lots of drama in every league. There's lots of drama, but ours especially because which is a lot different than most leagues because we have 16 people. And when I say we have 16 people, people are like, "What? How does that work?" It's ridiculous. It's way too many. But it's actually really fun. It's just like more friends in it. The waiver wire gets like skinnier and skinnier, and it makes it more competitive, and it makes the waiver wire super important. So I like how it is. I understand that some people might not like it like that, but that's how we are. So.
All right. You want to run us through the managers?
Yeah. So our first. So I'm gonna go in order of the draft because we already did the draft order, which was no controversies this year, which was good. We usually have some issue about something, but so the first overall pick is gonna be Jordan Holmes. He doesn't have it's also a keeper league. I forgot to mention that. I'm sorry, but he has no keeper planned right now. So he struggled throughout the league his first 4 seasons. He's 19-33. Not gonna lie, he's pretty much universally known in the league as probably the worst player. And I always tell him that, and he gets upset. But he wants everyone to know that he's coming different this year, whatever that means. Yeah,
that's big.
Yeah. Our second overall pick is going to be John Sandoval. He's keeping Saquon Barkley, which is pretty good keeper. He's been pretty average. He's 26-26. He wants to.
Average.
Yeah, very average. But his thing is that he did win a ring, and a lot of people say it's a hoax because of his other years. But he wanted the league to know that he's done being humble, which he is by far the most disrespectful guy in the league. So I don't know if he knows what that means exactly. Do you want to share your story with John?
I don't have anything. It's an anonymous story that I've heard.
Do you want to share?
I've heard that he's still recovering from accusations of an anonymous freshman in high school managing his team during his junior year and picking up Odell Beckham Jr. I've just heard that story. I can't confirm it, but the more I've heard about this league, the more that people are firm believers that is the truth.
Yeah. I've seen John talking to this anonymous source multiple times during that year, so yeah, I think it's pretty accurate. But so yeah,
for that guy.
Yeah, definitely, always. But he's done being humble. So, so Connor Casey is the third pick. Connor's been pretty consistent throughout the league. Great manager. He actually released a statement about his keeper situation. He wanted me to share. Yeah. We are still evaluating our team's options and future at this time. He asked for no further questions. So that's all he had to say. Spoken like a true professional. That's Connor Casey.
A true pro.
And his name's Team Hibbert as well. He is a big Roy Hibbert fan.
Sixers. Go Sixers.
Yeah, right? So for the fourth pick, his name is Ryan Kavanaugh. So there was some drama last year. We had a departure in the group for unknown reasons. Yeah. We don't need to name names, but Rye's been a great addition to the league. He went 6-7 in his first year, and he's keeping Mike Thomas. And he wanted the league to know that it's Jalen Reagor or bust for him. So I'm not sure why he announced.
What does that mean?
He said, I don't like. He's getting Jalen Reagor else. He might have to pick him early because he just announced it. But
wow.
he wanted me to share all that. But yeah, so Ryan's been a good addition. He's an instigator a little bit. So yeah, and then our fifth guy with the fifth overall pick is Paul Campoli. Paul's been a good guy for the league. He's one of the guys that's more laid back, known to just joke around. He's not too serious about it, which I feel like that there's guys like that in every league. For example, he wanted the league to know that he was just here so he doesn't get fined. So that's what he told me to say. And if anyone has seen the league, his inspiration is Taco. Have you seen the league?
Paul's a great guy. I'm pulling for him this year. I think he's my pick to win it all coming in at pick 5.
Really? What makes you think that?
Just have a hunch. I think this is his year that he breaks through.
Yeah. So Paul was better last year. He struggled in the first 3 years, but he was good last year. So the next pick is Nick DeLucas. He's another guy who's super laid back. He's going 24 and 28. He's had one really bad season. He plans on keeping Tyreek Hill. Nick's like I said, he's more laid back. And when I asked him if he had anything to say to the league, he said, "Got nothing. Sorry, bro." So not much. A man of few words.
A guy like that who keeps to himself can never be trusted on the waiver wire.
Yeah, like Nick knows his stuff. He's a college football player. He follows the NFL, but he's very quiet. Okay. Yeah, so the 7th pick is going to be Christian Layton. His nickname is Football God. Everyone calls him that. He wanted everyone to know that he didn't give himself the nickname, but he was a dominant high school football player, and he wants to be a coach one day, so he really knows his stuff. However, he's only been 29 and 23 in the last 4 years, but you might like this. He wanted the league to know that he's guaranteeing a championship if COVID allows it. Wow. So I was gonna ask you, what do you think about the word guarantee? Do you like when managers, coaches, players use that word?
I think he needs to put his money where his mouth is, and
yeah,
if he doesn't win the championship this year, there needs to be repercussions.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely agree with that. So the 8th pick is going to be Dennis Kelly. He's gone 26 and 26 in the last few years. He's often like the guy that's hovering around the playoffs every year. Usually has to make a late push. But Dennis is famous for his loyalty to his keeper, who is DeAndre Hopkins, who will keep again. He's gone on the record to say that if keepers are taken away from the league, he would leave the league out of respect to DeAndre. Yeah, he's the guy he'll make memes making fun of other players. He's a great guy in the league. He's famous for he calls it he sends players to the kids' table. That's his famous saying. That's T City, by the way. That's another nickname he has. So this guy Chris Vanieri, you know Chris, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So Chris is also known for being a very poor player, but in my opinion, he makes the league. I don't believe that a Stella league exists without Chris Vanieri. He's often ridiculed and teased for being taken advantage of with trades, and he's often bullied. But he wanted to let the league know that there's a clean slate for everyone. He wanted to wish everyone good luck, and he wants everyone to have fun. So that says a lot about Chris. He's just a good guy. He also hopes to come up with a new identity, and he's going 50. Yeah, he's going up. So I don't know what that means, but
he might be looking at a run-heavy approach this year.
Yeah, build the O-line. He's gone 15 and 37 since entering the league. He's really struggled. The funny thing about Chris is he drafted really well last year, and like how they do like the projections or whatever.
Yeah.
So his was 1. It might have been 14 or something like that, or like 13 and 1. And he traded his whole team away like week 2. And then he ended up almost finishing last. All right, so the 10th guy, this is gonna sound mean, but like Joe Fisher, I feel like he's the guy that we wish we could kick out, but we can't because we need a guy. But it's nothing against him. He's a Hatter. He went to our rival high school. But yeah, he's a good guy. He often gets made fun of for being a Hatter. So nothing personal against him, but he's gone 20 and 19 in the last 3 years, and he plans to keep Derrick Henry, which I thought was a little interesting. I don't know how you felt about that.
He's a first-round pick, definitely in all redraft leagues. So.
Yeah, I don't know. I just feel like he's either really good or really, I don't know. He finished great last year, obviously. He's a beast, but kind of inconsistent, I guess. I don't know. I could be wrong. So Kevin O'Donnell is going to have our 11th pick. He's also gone 26-26, pretty much the definition of average. He doesn't have a keeper as well. He wanted the league to know that it's all business this year. So, yeah, it's kind of boring. And he's kind of a boring player, I'm not going to lie. With the 12th pick, I have myself. We don't have to talk about that right now. We can talk about that after. The 13th is Matt Bruner. So he's another guy that the Stella League doesn't exist if it wasn't for him. He's our commissioner, and he created the league, and he stuck with it, and he takes a beating from all the guys over stupid things. Like, for example, John Sandoval has forgotten his password 6 years in a row, and he has to make a new account for him every year. Just little stuff like that. And he often mentions that he spent some money on a trophy, and he wanted everyone to know that he really cares about the league. But Matt's been pretty consistent. I always say that he's the third place guy because he's always finishing third place, so he hasn't gotten quite over the hump. But he's gone 33-19 in his last 3 years, and everyone teases him because he can't win his own league.
People forget he spent $29 on that trophy.
Yeah, right. That's huge.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I probably wouldn't have done it. A lot of people probably wouldn't have done it. Big time investment.
Do you pass the trophy around to the winning team?
Yeah, we do.
Each season, and then you return it at the draft?
Yes.
Or at the end of the season?
Not to brag, I won in 2016, and I kept it on my mantle in my living room.
Wow.
My parents were a little annoyed about that, but it looked great up there, so I kept it there. So with that Matt was the 13th pick. So the 14th pick is going to be Tyler Smith. He's a guy that flies under the radar. He doesn't get into the drama. Just a nice kid. But he really knows his football. He's always a tough out. I don't like when I have to play him. He usually has a solid team, and he's gone 27-25 in the last 4 years. But I think he's caught the injury bug a couple of years. But he plans on keeping Ezekiel Elliott.
Smart.
Yeah, I agree. So Tyler Johnson's going to be the 15th pick. Tyler is the defending champion. He's gone 33-19 in the past 4 years. Some people, they call him Howie Roseman, mainly because he's earned it. He's often making good deals with people. He gets teased. Well, he doesn't get teased, but he gets told that he takes advantage of his closest friends in the group and often takes advantage of them. But he's a well-respected member, and he's also a well-envied member of the group. People really usually love his team and usually like what he's doing. And he has every fantasy player's dream pick, and that's Christian McCaffrey. Yeah, so that's Tyler. And then last but not least, we have Joe Bates. He's going to be the last pick. He's gone 22-30 in the last 4 years. He struggled mightily last year, which was unlike Joe. He usually knows his stuff. Usually a great drafter. And he's thinking about keeping Nick Chubb, but he said he
not like that keep.
No, he's not sure yet. He said he might, but he has trouble trusting.
Hunt's in the fold this year.
Yeah, that's what he said. He said he has trouble just trusting the Browns.
Wake up, Joseph.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. He's a good player.
I have a question about the league.
Sure.
Is there a punishment for last place, or is that something that we can come up with?
We have done punishments. I've been asked by the representatives of the league to keep those quiet.
Makes sense.
Sorry about that.
Respect those decisions.
Yeah. I would love to talk about it, but some people don't want to talk about it. It's no big deal.
Behind closed doors. All right. Well, that will do it for our introduction to the Stella League, something that we will definitely be keeping tabs on throughout the upcoming season. We might even do a little draft preview on it, depending on when draft day is. But we're going to hit up some fantasy sleepers. We went kind of long with that, so we're going to try and make the sleeper portion a little quicker. But I will start it off with we each did Brennan and I, 2 quarterbacks, 2 running backs, 2 receivers, 2 tight ends, and I threw in an honorable mention as well. So I'll start off with the quarterback. All these rankings are based off of the ESPN fantasy rankings. So the first quarterback I picked for my sleeper was Drew Lock of the Broncos. He was ranked 20th according to ESPN. He just really impressed me at the end of last year, where he came in for Joe Flacco, took over as a starter, went 4-1, threw for 7 touchdowns. He threw at least 25 passes in his 5 starts. So, I mean, that's a decent amount of volume. I think he went over 35 in 3 of the 5 starts. So they added Pat Shurmur, who, I mean, he hasn't had success as a head coach, but as an offensive coordinator, he's been one of the best in the league in his time in the NFL. So that's a big addition. They have Courtland Sutton, who's an emerging wide receiver 1. Added Jerry Jeudy, who I thought was the best receiver in the draft, and added a deep speed threat and a guy who can also affect the screen game in KJ Hamler. And they have Noah Fant, who had a pretty solid rookie year at tight end, and he's a guy who I think is just going to get better. You see tight ends really take that second-year leap, so I think he's a guy that could do that. And a very solid running back duo with Philip Lindsay and Melvin Gordon. It's kind of a cliche, but we always see quarterbacks succeed when they can establish the run first and set up the play action. And guys like Sutton and Jeudy, Hamler, Fant will all benefit from having Melvin Gordon and Philip Lindsay in the backfield establishing the run. And those are 2 guys who can catch the ball as well. So that Broncos offense is loaded with playmakers. I think they're a real sleeper team this year, but I think Locke's in for a big year. And his second year is where you see quarterbacks really take that big leap from year 1 to year 2. And I think he could be a guy that we're looking at the end of the season, and he's like a must start, almost up in that upper tier of young quarterbacks now.
Yeah, I agree with that. He really came on at the end of last year. We'll see what he does as the full-on starter.
Mm-hmm.
So my quarterback, I had trouble with the quarterbacks. It's kind of hard with sleepers because there's just one starter, so you can't really look deep into the depth chart. But so I have Sam Darnold, which I know people are going to think that's questionable. He's ranked as a 27th QB according to ESPN, which it's fair now. But I also feel like he hasn't always gotten the fair share because of the mono he had last year, and their O-line has just always been so rough. They just don't never really have a great roster. But I think in one more year with Le'Veon and a better O-line, and they acquired Denzel Mims in the 2nd round, I believe, who seems all right. And if you don't the game, he came back before he got the mono or whatever, or maybe the game after. I don't know which one, but he really played well against the Patriots. I don't know if you remember that.
Mm-hmm.
And they beat the Patriots actually. But yeah, that's my first quarterback.
All right. Another guy I just wanted to touch on real quick that I was for sure going to throw on here was Kyler Murray. But ESPN actually had him ranked as the 3rd best fantasy quarterback coming into the year. So
I don't think that's right. But
yeah, I thought he was going to have a good year, but I thought he would be ranked around 10th or something.
That's what I was
3rd
thinking.
was just too high.
Yeah.
But another quarterback I think that could, I'm not going to say blow up, but be a very solid quarterback 2 on your fantasy roster is Teddy Bridgewater. They have him ranked as 25th ranked quarterback according to ESPN. He's going to be the Panthers' new starting quarterback after Cam Newton left. Went 5-0 as a starter last year, threw 9 touchdowns to 2 interceptions, so that's a very good ratio. He's going to be the full-time starter now, like I was saying, and he's going to be operating a very underrated offense, in my opinion. He's a very accurate quarterback, and he's got, as we were talking about earlier, Christian McCaffrey, probably the best offensive weapon in the NFL right now, who's going to affect the game in the rushing game, but he can also go out wide and catch passes and catch screens. Just getting a playmaker like that for Bridgewater is definitely going to help. DJ Moore, who had a very good year last year, he had over 1,000 yards. He had, I think, 7 touchdowns and about 80 catches. So another great up-and-coming player. They went out and picked up Robbie Anderson, who's one of the top deep threats in the NFL. Curtis Samuel is a very versatile player when it comes to rushing the ball, catching the ball. He's another guy who can do it all. So I think he's a perfect quarterback too, and has potential to finish as like a top 15 fantasy quarterback this year.
Yeah, I agree. Can I say something about McCaffrey for a second?
Yeah.
I thought it was. I saw this thing that like he has, by the time he got in the league, like in his first certain amount of 2 or 3 years, he is like the second most catches ever for the first, which is just crazy.
I think it was most actually.
It was most, yeah. It doesn't even make sense. Crazy stats. And that NFC South is going to be an unreal division.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of offense.
Yeah. But my second quarterback is Ryan Tannehill from the Titans. So this guy, I don't feel like he's going to be a guy that can blow up, really. But I feel like if you need a backup or someone to fill in if through an injury, I think he would be a great guy just because he's so consistent. Doesn't really have too many bad games. And I think this year with Derrick Henry, I think defenses are really going to be like stacking the box and making sure he doesn't go off. So I think that might open some things up for the passing game. And I think he's just a good fallback option if there's an injury or you need someone for a couple games if the QB is struggling or something like that. So I have Tannehill. He's projected 18th according to ESPN. So
yeah, he really took off. He really took off last year when he became the starter. It'll be interesting to see if he can kind of carry that over.
He's like the typical like game manager, as people say, like Alex Smith. But I just feel like he's a little bit more better than that and a little more consistent than that.
Yeah, if like your quarterback's hurt for a week or if he's on a bye or something, you need to throw him in. I just wanted to
just a game manager.
Before we move on to running backs, I wanted to hop back to Darnold. The game against the Patriots, they did not win. They lost 33-0.
No.
He threw 86 yards and 4 picks.
No, that you're thinking of a different game.
That was the game where he was seeing ghosts.
No, yeah, I know. I was gonna say that it's not that game.
The Dallas
it was earlier in the year. Oh wait, was it the Dallas game? I'm sorry.
338 and 2 touchdowns in that game.
Yeah.
All right, that makes more sense.
My bad. I was thinking the Patriots, but do you know what I was talking about? Like earlier in the year. When he came back.
He had game 1 where they were up 16-0 against the Bills and they blew that.
Yeah.
And then he got mono and he returned in week 5, and that was the game against Dallas.
That's what I was thinking of. Should have fact checked that. My bad.
No, you're good.
That was funny, that seeing ghosts thing.
Yeah. Like right when you said the Patriots, I was like seeing ghosts.
Yeah.
I just wanted to make sure they didn't play them like later in the year.
Okay, well that's not as impressive, but Dallas had a great defense that year, so.
Yeah, and Dallas was undefeated at the time too. So.
Yeah.
All right, we'll move on to running backs now.
My bad about that.
You're good. I got Alexander Mattison from the Vikings. He's currently ranked 50th according to ESPN for the running backs, but he's a guy who could definitely skyrocket once training camp opens and whatnot. Dalvin Cook, the star running back there, is projected to hold out. He said without a new contract, he won't play. So we've seen this before with guys. They'll eventually come in like Melvin Gordon and Zeke did, but Cook's going to be determined to get a new contract. But even if he is playing, he's a very injury-prone running back, and so that's where Mattison, I think, will have great value. Other than the Ravens last year, the Vikings ran the ball more than any team in the league, and that might surprise you with Cousins and when they had Diggs last year and they had Thielen and Rudolph, but they really committed to being a run-heavy team last year, and that I think Gary Kubiak's offensive coordinator up there now, so he's always been a run-heavy coach. But when Cook went down, Mattison played well. He's a hard runner, a versatile back who's going to get a big volume of touches if Cook's holding out or if he's hurt, or even if you need a guy like in the flex. I think he's going to be a guy who can get you 8 to 10 carries potentially a game, and if they try to prolong Cook's career, and they're going to be a team who's pretty good, so they're going to be trying to keep guys fresh throughout the year and not beating them into the ground. So by the time playoff comes around, they're not there. So I think Mattison could be a very solid pickup, especially at his 50th ranked spot as of right now.
Yeah, I like that pick as well. So my first running back I guess he's a little bit better than a sleeper. A lot of people would be a little bit better than a sleeper. But it's Clyde Edwards-Helaire from the Chiefs. He's the rookie out of LSU. I just feel like any Chiefs players are always going to get enough touches just by the way their offense works. It's just so they spread the ball around. Everyone kind of gets going. And historically in the Chiefs offense with Mahomes, it's usually running backs catching a lot of passes out of the backfield. Like Kareem Hunt, Damian Williams, those guys. I think Travis Kelce opens a lot for their offense, and I think he's going to be able to get going. So 3-down guy, catch passes and run the ball in LSU's offense. So yeah, I think that's going to be a good pick.
Yes, especially in like PPR leagues, I think he will be.
Yeah,
he'll be a guy who goes higher just because he's going to get a. I mean, Damian Williams is still a solid guy. He's going to get touches, but
yeah,
I mean, they invested a first-round pick in Edwards-Helaire. He's definitely going to be the guy out there, I think.
I based my sleeper picks pretty much off of PPR as well, just because I feel like most leagues have it.
Yeah, that's basically most are that by now.
Yeah.
I'm going to continue with my running back. I picked another rookie to go along with yours. I got Cam Akers from the Rams. Right now, he's the 29th ranked running back according to ESPN. Todd Gurley's gone from LA, so he's in Atlanta now. So that starting running back spot is wide open. So Sean McVay is going to be looking for a new guy to take control of that backfield, and I think Sean McVay can really elevate this guy's play. He's a very talented player, but I think he just suffered from like bad coaching with Willie Taggart at Florida State. That's a guy who's kind of coached in a lot of places, and he's never really had much success. So I think Akers kind of suffered from that. Just remember looking him up, like videos of him before the draft and looking at his numbers and stuff. Like when he got enough touches, he was very productive, and he was very impressive on film and whatnot. I remember looking at like his stats. He had an 89-yard rush in college last year, so he's a guy who has long-term speed and explosion. He just needs to have a better offensive system around him, I think, and we've seen the Rams have had a lot of success on offense over the years. So look for Cam Akers to fill in Todd Gurley's role. I mean, he's not going to be as good as him right away, I think, but he's a guy who could definitely blow up and become a top 15 to top 10 running back if all goes well out in LA this year.
My second running back is going to be Tevin Coleman from the Niners. He's the 45th ranked running back according to ESPN. But the 49ers love running the ball. They got rid of Breida, who's got a lot of their touches, and I know Raheem Mostert is up and coming as well, but I think they like to use as many running backs as they can. He can catch passes. He can do it all. Usually, I think it'll be their third down guy for the most part. And yeah, in the playoffs, I think the one game what Garoppolo threw like 9 times or something like that.
The NFC title game.
Yeah, against Green Bay. But I think they'll run the ball a lot. And when they don't run the ball, I think that Garoppolo likes to check down, just keep the chains moving. So that's who I have as my second running back.
Yeah, the top 2 backs in San Francisco are going to be must-own players just because they really rely on the running game, and it's very effective for them. So we'll move on to the wide receivers now. I have Allen Lazard from Green Bay. He's the 65th ranked wide receiver according to ESPN, so it's kind of a real dark horse type of guy, but they definitely need another wide receiver to step up. They went out and picked up Devin Funchess, who's struggled for a few years now. They had Marques, Valdez, Scantling, or whatever that dude's name is, who's never really done much. But Lazard was kind of a guy outside of Devontae Adams who stepped up in the passing game last year. His numbers aren't that great, but when I was looking through his targets, he was behind Adams, where he would get like 5-6 targets a game. So Lazard has earned the trust of Rodgers. I think he's a young and upcoming receiver. We've kind of seen guys who aren't big name players succeed with the Packers and Aaron Rodgers over the years. Like Jordy Nelson came out of nowhere. Randall Cobb was another guy who wasn't a big name player who came out of nowhere. So Devontae Adams wasn't even a big name guy. I mean, he's definitely a better talent. He's an elite player, but Green Bay has had these guys over the years who have just kind of slipped through the cracks and have became consistent, good NFL players. Another one is like James Jones, even too. But I mean, I think he's a young and upcoming receiver. Like I was saying, his numbers aren't that impressive, but I mean, just like watching him, like he's an eye test guy, I think, and that's why I regard him as one of my top sleepers on this list because I just think he can be a productive receiver for Green Bay. That means he's going to be a productive, at least backup to like a wide receiver 3 or 4 on a fantasy roster this upcoming year.
I feel like the Green Bay is always looking for the second guy since Jordy left or whatever a while ago. But it's just Adams and then a bunch of people that really don't produce.
They need someone to step up.
Yeah. So I know we're doing sleepers, and this guy wouldn't be really known as a sleeper, but I just wanted to talk about it because I feel like every year he's just constantly undervalued. So Cooper Kupp is the 16th ranked receiver for PPR and ESPN, but he finished 4th last year in points for receivers. So I just thought that was interesting. Yeah. And he's just constantly – the Rams spread the ball around like crazy. He's always lots of catches each game. Tyler, the guys in the league, Tyler Johnson had him, and he was such a steal for him. Like just having him as like a second or third receiver was just so huge for him. So yeah, I think that's a guy who probably should be ranked higher each year and never is.
He's like it's weird. Like he's like a big play guy too. Like he's
not just
like 50, 60-yard touchdown catch.
Yeah, he's not
great speed.
He's not just a slot receiver that's going to catch 8-yard passes. Like he does it all.
He definitely is an impressive guy, and this will be, I think definitely at least his 3rd, but I'm pretty sure his 4th year now working with Jared Goff too. So they've got it, and Brandon Cooks is gone, so that's just more targets too.
Yeah, I agree.
So my other receiver I think this guy is going to be a stud this year. I wouldn't be surprised if he's not a Pro Bowl player. Marques Hollywood-Brown of the Ravens. He's the 34th ranked receiver according to ESPN, but he's just got great speed. He was the top speed receiver in his draft class 2 years ago. He's fully healthy. Admitted he was battling injuries all year, and for a speed guy, he was dealing with foot problems all year. So you can imagine how that affected his game, especially at receiver when you're planning off it every time you step on the field, you need your foot to be fully healed. So he's good now, and I've heard a lot of things about his offseason that he's going to be in for a big year. And all the teams, they're going to key in on the running attack with Lamar, with Mark Ingram. They picked up J.K. Dobbins. So that's just going to open up more things over the top for Brown, and I think not just deep balls, but he's going to be able to take those slants and take those screens and make them into 20-plus yard gains, stuff like that.
Yeah.
So the Ravens just need a wide receiver one to step up for Lamar. If you really think they had Willie Snead was like their main guy on the outside this year. So, and I also think with his speed and his versatility that they can mix him into the run offense as well. So you get him one rush a game where he can pick up 10 to 20 yards. That's more versatility, more points for your team.
Yeah, or even break one free every once in a while. But I feel like Lamar every year is just going to get better with his arm. Like obviously he's an unbelievable athlete and is the fastest, one of the fastest guys in the league. But he's going to keep improving with his arm because he has to.
Yeah, because more teams
stay healthy,
keep keying on the run and stuff. They need that's kind of what how the Titans were able to beat them in the playoffs last year. They really keyed in on the run. I mean, if you look at Lamar's stats in the game, they don't appear that bad, but they were down playing catch up, and they needed to throw the ball.
I remember some garbage time.
Yeah,
points. I remember that. Yeah.
So they really need to, if they want to. I mean, I think I would pick them as the AFC favorite this year, even over the Chiefs. I think, but that's all dependent on me believing in Hollywood Brown that much and becoming like a wide receiver one for the Ravens.
Cool. So my second wide receiver is Deante Johnson from Pitt. I think that they're going to be a little bit undervalued, all the Pittsburgh receivers, because of how poor they produced last year. But with Big Ben coming back, he likes to air it out. I think that he's going to be a guy that can complement Juju. James Washington has been that kind of guy, but he's been disappointing when Ben is healthy. So, yeah, I think Juju has a little bit of a better year this year. I don't think the Steelers are going to be as good as they used to be, obviously, because Big Ben's getting older. But I think Deante Johnson's a guy that when Juju's getting double-teamed or just getting the best corner each week, that he's a guy that can break some free, maybe be a little deep threat, but also have a couple catches. So I think he's a guy that you definitely would draft late, but a guy that where you would draft him would probably produce pretty well. And in a 16-person league, those guys are important just for our league.
Mm-hmm. I'm interested to see because over the years with Big Ben, they've always had two good receivers, whether it was Wallace and Sanders, and then it was Antonio and Juju. If Juju and maybe Johnson can step up now and form another big-time duo for them. So we'll move on to the last position group, the tight ends. I have T.J. Hawkinson from the Lions as my top guy for the sleepers at tight ends. He's ranked 16th right now according to the tight ends. Last year in week 1, really is where he showcased his abilities. He had 6 catches, 131 yards, and a touchdown. So that was a big week 1 coming out party, but kind of fell off after that for the season. But I mean, those numbers in your opening game, that just really shows what kind of player you can be. If you just watch him, and I mean, I'm sure you've seen him throughout watching the NFL last year. He's just a big body, strong guy, very explosive. I'm not saying he's as good as Gronk, but body size and his explosiveness for being that big, and that's just comparable to him. So I think he's got flashes of an elite type player in him, and that I saw last year, and he's a big red zone target. So I love his value as the 16th best tight end. For your guys' league, if you play just one, I'm sure you only play one tight end, but if he's the worst starting tight end in the league, I would definitely take that on a very good value.
Yeah.
And most of my leagues are either 10 or 12 teams. If I'd probably be confident in having him as my starter at the beginning of the year, if not very top end backup. So I think he's definitely in for a big year, and he's flying under the radar.
Yeah, I agree with you. So my first tight end is going to be Tyler Higbee from the Rams. I was surprised when I looked up his stats that he finished 8th in the league in PPR last year. That really shocked me. But yeah, I really like the Rams in fantasy, because I just think that they spread the ball around, they pass the ball a lot, and without Gurley being as dominant as he used to be, I think they're going to continue to pass the ball a lot. So I like him. I think he's a good fallback if you need someone for a week or two, if they're injury or something like that. But yeah, I trouble with tight ends too, because there's not with sleepers. That's who I looked at. So
him being 8th was when you said that, I was definitely surprised by that.
Yeah,
he's not really a big name guy, but it seems like basically if you're a starter in that Rams offense, you're gonna provide some pretty good value fantasy.
That's what I was thinking.
My other tight end, I had Hayden Hurst, new pickup of the Falcons. He came over in a trade from the Ravens this offseason. The 17th ranked tight end according to ESPN. I was listening to part of my take about a week or two ago, and Matt Ryan was interviewed there, and he was raving about him. He seemed to be really excited to pick him up, and as we've seen in Matt Ryan's history playing quarterback for the Falcons with Tony Gonzalez and Austin Hooper, he loves to target them. I mean, those guys had big years there. I mean, we saw Hooper became a 2-time Pro Bowler. I mean, obviously Gonzalez is a Hall of Fame tight end, one of the best to ever play, but Matt Ryan still contributed to a lot of his production, and Hooper is a 2-time Pro Bowler and became the highest paid tight end, I think, this year in the offseason when he signed with the Browns. So Hurst could be that next guy in line of potentially becoming a breakout player for the Falcons, and He's a former first-round pick, so he's a talented guy. He just never really found a role in Baltimore. So I'm looking for him to break out. And for my honorable mention guy I threw in there was another tight end, Blake Jarwin of the Cowboys. They have him ranked the 20th tight end overall, according to ESPN for fantasy. So the Cowboys gave him a pretty solid contract extension this year in the offseason. That was I think it was 4 years and a little bit over $20 million. So there's a lot of big names on the outside with CeeDee Lamb getting picked up, Michael Gallup, and re-signing Amari Cooper. And then you got Zeke at running back. So the defenses are going to be given all the attention to those big name guys, and not a lot of eyes are going to be on him. And with Jason Witten gone and the void at tight end that has been created, I'm looking for him to step up, and I think he could be a very solid backup tight end for any team. He could be but I think he's going to be a touchdown dependent guy. He's going to be a guy who benefits off play action in the red zone, especially when teams are stacking the line, looking for Zeke to get that goal line carry, and you kind of see Jarwin float out and get one of those lobs for like an easy touchdown. But I'm looking at him as a guy who has potential to become 8 to 10 touchdown guy and around 40 to 50 grabs maybe. So that'd be a very solid backup tight end and work his way maybe into a starter by the end of the year.
Cool. So there you got all your players?
Yep.
Cool. So my last tight end is going to be Jack Doyle from Indy. I just feel like this guy you can get late. He'll help you produce with a couple catches in a PPR league. Like you said with Matt Ryan and Tito Gonzalez, you saw the success that Phillip Rivers had with Antonio Gates. So I feel like he'll be more likely to use the tight end. And Hunter Henry also was very solid there.
Yeah.
But he's had some injury issues too. I've had him in my leagues as a backup tight end, and he gets injured, so that's something to worry about. But I feel like he'll be a solid pick, just in a PPR league. And
they lost Ebron too, so he'll be back to being like the main guy out there.
Yeah, I think they got Trey Burton too. I think, right?
Yeah, they did pick up.
Yeah, Burton. So that's another thing to worry about. But I think Burton has kind of struggled since he's been with the Eagles. But.
Yeah, he didn't really do much with the Bears. I expect Doyle to be the starter at tight end out there. But that'll just about do it for us. You got anything else you want to add before I wrap it up?
Thanks for having me. Thanks for becoming partners with the Stella Fantasy League.
Yeah.
Should be a fun year. I'm hoping maybe like guys from the league can get on during the year and talk. About the league if you do like a fantasy episode every week or something like that. Cool. So
yeah, definitely it'll be something that we can get creative with and hopefully have some fun with going forward. And maybe I was thinking maybe even get like t-shirts made up for the league or something like that.
Yeah, it'd be awesome.
Something cool going forward. But hopefully we can have some fun with it, and we praying that we do wind up getting some football this upcoming fall.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, I'm worried, but
yeah. But all right, everyone. Thanks for tuning in. I appreciate it. Following Beef Up Front. Tell your friends, tell your family. Listen to the podcast. Follow the website, please. We're trying to grow this more. I mean, I'm very thankful for all the love and support I've gotten from everyone so far. But Beef Up Front, we're on Apple, we're on YouTube, we're on Spotify, all that good stuff. So. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in, and we'll be talking to you soon.
Thanks, everyone. See you, bye.